It's Secret Golf with Elk and Knoxy, the podcast live from the Players' Championship at Tpc Sawgrass. I'm Knoxy. It's been a fun week. It's been a very busy week, actually. And if you do subscribe to our podcast and keep up to date, you'll have seen that we've had a lot. There's been a lot going on, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. We've been based at the Sawgrass Marriott Resort, and we've been doing our daily shows with Golf Talk America. Now, you can find that podcast at pgatour.com. So go and listen. We've had a lot of fun. We've had some great guests on. Elk's been on. We had Fred Funk on, Players Champion from 2005. We've also had a lot of our Secret Golf players stop by and really just have a chat about everything surrounding the players, the build up to the players, how their season has been so far. You know, we talk about the architecture of the course, the Pete Dye design, how they're going to strategize it, what it's going to take for them to really go out and contend and hopefully win this week. And then, you know, just kind of talk about their lives in general and what's been going on. So it's been great. They're all on our iTunes channel, as I said. I'm trying to remember the list of everyone we've talked to. Ryan Palmer, Jason Kokrak. I'm trying to do it in chronological order so that I don't forget anyone. Russell Knox, my brother. I mean, he was going to be forced to do it, let's be honest. We had Patton Kazire, Brian Harmon, Andrew Landry, Mark Leishman, Chris Stroud, and also one of our newest signings from the LPGA Tour, Sandra Gall. She was in town, week off the LPGA, and she decided to come and watch the guys, spend some time out here. I asked her if she got to hit a shot on 17, and she didn't. She was itching to do so. Anyway, as I said, go check all of those podcasts out at secretgolf.com and on iTunes. Now, I had a chat with Elk before we came here to talk about his two wins in 91 and in 97. And we also really talked about the course in general. When he won, the tournament was in March. Next year, it moves back to March. How's that going to impact everything? Also, as we said, you know, this Pete Dye design course, if you play down the troubled line, that's when you're going to get rewarded. And I wanted to find out a little bit more about that from Elk.
It's Secret Golf. It's what I'm looking for. It's why I get up every morning, call my good time of friends. Keeps me coming back for more. It's Secret Golf. We're headed down the road. We just loaded up the big show. Going looking for the heart and soul. Secret Golf. Shh, it's a secret.
Now, you won 2 players' titles in 6 years. The event was obviously held in March back then, and it will be again from next year. But what about this event really suited you and your game?
It's the precision factor. I'm a good iron player. You've got to be pin high a lot at TPC. There's so many second shots that require so much precision. I'm a medium trajectory with a fair amount of spin, so I can make that ball stop. I can make it do what I want to, and that's really the name of the game. I mean, Nick Price, he's a great friend of mine. He won twice there. Davis Love, Freddie Couples. It's not, even though those guys are long. It takes it's just all about precision at players. Mm-hmm. We've seen lots of great players that have never won it. Maybe they can't be disciplined enough. I would say that would be it takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah. Now, I've heard you talk about it. I know you really respect Pete Dye's mind. And when you and him were designing TPC Louisiana together, did you talk about, you know, you being the king of Sawgrass and your 2 victories and the incredible shots that you played there?
Well, he and I talked about how visually intimidating he likes to make the holes, and then he reiterated what I know, and that is that if you're willing to play down the trouble line on a Pete Dye course, then the course will open up for you. For example, on 18, everyone knows the water's down the left. If you're game enough to hit it down the left near the water, you will have the best shot in. If you go to the right, he totally screws you. He pins you off in every way possible. He won't let you get into the green if you play safe off the tee. And that's what it's amazing to me, to be honest, how many players don't know that. They see water, they go over to the right. They think they're playing safe, but they're playing the wrong way. I mean, I'd rather gamble and go down the trouble line myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about Tpc Sawgrass in general, because they made some changes to the course before the tournament last year. You were here last year, you walked around the course, you got to see some of the changes. What do you think about it in general right now? What are your kind of standout holes?
Well, there's about a handful of holes that you have to play really well at Sawgrass. A lot of times when we play a tour course, you'll hit a good drive and the hole will be over. In other words, let's take something that we all know. Let's take 18 at Augusta. If you hit a good tee shot at Augusta, I don't want to say the hole's over, but you hardly see anyone screw up once they get into the middle of the fairway. TPC is a different deal. You have to hit a good drive on a lot of these holes and hit a really good second shot to play the hole correctly. Number 4 is that way. Number 5 is that way. Number 7 is that way. Number 10, number 13, number 14. 17, of course, 18, you've got to play lots of what I call double shots to play the hole correctly. So that's why the big hitters never do well there, because a lot of times guys, can hit the ball so far down there, but they can't do that at TPC. They've got to play it. We all have to play it very similar distance off the tee.
So on the back nine, one of the big standout holes last year, and it's one that got everyone talking for the full duration of the tournament, is the 12th, because they did make some changes to it. What do you think about that hole now?
Well, I think they made it worse. I don't know, one tour player that said that the 12th's better. It's now a drivable par 4, but if you hit it, 1 inch off your line, it goes in the water, and the green's tilted too much, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Sometimes they just try to get too fancy. 12 was fine the way it was, but they're going to change holes. They do it all the time. But, hey, there's other holes that can, give you more worries than 12. 10's a hard hole. 11's a 5 that you can birdie. 14, 15, and 17, 18. The course has different momentums of shifts and flows. It starts off pretty easily, then it gets hard in the middle, then it has a nice little break at the turn with 9, 8, 9, 11, 12, and then it gets hard again, and then it stays really hard at the end. It's a very interesting flow course. I like it.
And then this year is the last year that the Players is going to be held in May. So with it moving back to March, I mean, we were looking at the temperatures then when you won it back in 91 and 97. Some days it was in the high 80s. It was in the 60s some days as well. So the weather is going to be really different, and it's going to make for a different tournament altogether. Yeah,
I mean, in 91, when I have the trophy, I have a sweater on when I'm getting the trophy there. So, it's going to be different. The players are going to find that it's going to be a lot harder. But, they'll adjust. It's just going to be, for the fans, it's going to be more exciting, because instead of these little wedges they hit on 17, they're going to be hitting these, longer shots, 8 irons, 7 irons into that wind. That's going to test them. Yeah. I don't know how these Floridians are going to cope, because the ones that I've spoken to keep saying, it's going to be so cold in March. I know. So right now I'm joined by, somebody that I definitely can't get in trouble around, because his title is fantastic. From the PGA Tour, Mark Russell, who is the Vice President of Rules and Competition. How are you?
Diane, I'm great. Thanks for having me this morning.
No, thank you for being here. I mean, you're the one that gets to decide all the behavior on the course and punish the bad behavior.
Well, that's exactly right. But we, golf's a gentleman's game. Hopefully we don't have any of that. But, we have a great staff. Our staff decides where the hole goes on the green. We decide where the tees go. We decide what speed of the greens are going to be. We decide how high the rough's going to be. And then once the competition starts, we conduct the competition. We're on the golf course in case someone has a rules problem, or if someone is out of position pace of play-wise. We'll be on that. Anything that's got anything to do with the competition, that's what we do.
Good. So when it comes to, the Players being, one of your biggest tournaments, because you guys are, this really is the PGA Tour's tournament, I guess, because you guys are based in Ponte Vedra. So this is it's almost like your benchmark tournament in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. It's our flagship event. I look at it, if you go back in the history of the game, the Players back in the mid-'60s, the Players broke away from the PGA of America. And they decided they wanted to have their own organization and make their own regulations and things. And when they did that, they had always had the PGA Championship. That in the before 1968 was the Players Championship. So when the Players broke away from the PGA of America, one of the first things they said, Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino and Arnold Palmer, we've got to have our own tournament. Yeah. So that was the birth of the Players Championship. So in a way, that's kind of what the old PGA Championship, which, is played in August, going to be played in May next year. That's what that was. And so the Players Championship, to me, you have the four major championships. They're golf icons. And then you have the Players. The Players stands on its own. Yeah,
definitely. Now, you're working, obviously, every tournament every week. Well, you have there's rules officials at every tournament, but how far in advance do you start planning? So, for example, with the Players, how far in advance do you start thinking about, okay, pin positions and out of bounds? When does that start?
Well, we're thinking about the Players Championship next year right now, simply because it's going to go to March next year, and we're going to have an overseeded golf course, which will be a different situation. But we're always thinking about things we can do to make it better and how we're going to set up the golf course. And, a lot of things affect that. The weather, the wind, is it hard, is it soft, what kind of weather conditions we have. So that's no two situations are ever the same.
So pin positions, how do you decide the daily pin positions?
Well, we'll refer to that as hole placements. We want to set the golf course up as difficult as it could possibly play, but fair.
Okay.
So we're always looking for a flat area. We don't want a guy to have a 2-foot putt that breaks about 8 inches. So we're always looking to set the golf course up difficult but fair, and we have a great staff that is very good at doing that. So, we just look at it day to day, and we have a guy that sets up the front side. It's going to be John Much. He's done it for a long time. And then the backside will be set up by Robbie Ware, who's done that for a long time. And they're dialed in to where they need to go with the holes and the tees. And, we have a meteorologist on our staff that's always filling us in on the wind direction and speed. And that's going to affect where we put the tee blocks.
Amazing. The greens are difficult here. We had Jason Kokrak on yesterday, and he said, if the greens are a 13 here, you could be out there all day. So how do you, when you're coming up with, the green speed, what do you have to take into consideration there?
Well, you have to take into consideration how much undulation you have on the greens. Some greens, you could play very, very fast, and some greens you can't. And you got to think, too, about the wind. If we get a 35-mile-an-hour wind, which you could easily do here, it could blow the ball around on the greens, and you couldn't play. So we have to take that in consideration when we think about the speed of the greens. But this week at the Players, it's going to be fantastic in that the golf course is very firm and fast. And that makes, that's what the players want, and that's usually determined by the weather. But we've had dry, nice weather here, and the golf course is going to play extremely difficult. But there's a low score out there if you can hit those shots.
Yeah. Obviously, out of bounds areas as well, you guys have to physically go on and paint those lines on the course. How long does that process take?
Well, we have a person we send what we call the advance official, and Stephen Cox and Steve Carmen. We had two guys here at the Players, and they determine, how the golf course is going to be marked as far as the hazards go, the yellow and red hazards. They start that a week ahead of time. And they usually do most of their painting on Friday of the advanced week, so the paint's fresh. And then we have guys go out every morning and take a look, and if some lines have maybe been mown out or faded a little bit, they'll doctor on them a little bit.
Wow. And I feel this season so far in the PGA Tour, there's been a lot of playoffs. What about the playoff format for the Players? What is it?
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, me too.
We play the last 3 holes, which are 3 of the best holes in the game, and it's an aggregate score. So it's a little different. It's not a sudden death playoff. It's a 3-hole playoff, and if it's tied after those 3 holes, 16, 17, and 18, then we'll go to a sudden death format. But I think it's fantastic.
And sudden death back to 16?
Back to 16, correct.
Excellent. Oh, well, who knows what's going to happen this year, though. And when you're out on the course, so you're on standby pretty much from morning until the final putt drops on 18.
Absolutely. Our staff is there. We're there an hour ahead of time, and we have to get the golf course set up, and we have an official that takes the lead groups out on the front side and make sure they set a good pace, and the same thing on the back. And then our staff kind of have a person setting up the front and back like I told you with the John Much and Robbie Ware. And then we have an official that goes and checks the bunkers and, make sure the hole placement's exactly where they put them. And so we don't want anything to fall through the cracks. Try to take care of, look at it from all different angles and make sure there's no mistakes made.
And the thing with you, every day you must start your day thinking that you have really no idea what the day holds, because a lot can happen out on the golf course.
No, absolutely. No two situations are everything. That's what makes it so unique. And by far our biggest problem, Diane, is the weather. You can't predict that. It's different all the time. It's changing all the time. So that is by far our biggest problem. I mean, if we have 35,000 people on the golf course and a thunderstorm comes up, we can get those players off there pretty quick. But to get those spectators off there, it takes some planning, and we have to make sure that everyone's safe. So, yes, no two situations are ever the same, and the weather is by far our biggest problem.
Well, the forecast is looking okay for the next couple of days. I think a little bit of rain may be forecast on Sunday. But we should have lovely Florida weather for the first couple.
Well, it's early in the week, I don't even think about Sunday. They can't predict the weather 3 days in advance to save their life. But they tell us what it's going to be 100 years from now, and people are going for it.
Yeah, we know what it's going to be next March.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier pace of play. And it is something that's very topical right now in golf, but also in other sports. I mean, if you look at baseball, they've put measures in place recently to deal with slow play. How do you feel about that in golfing terms?
Diane, you want to talk about the pace of play? No one's ever talked about that before in golf. Golf's a game that there's not a shot clock on it, but, we expect the players, we give them a time, what we call a time par. Let's say if the first hole's a par 4, we'll give them 14, maybe 15 minutes to play that hole, and you're right on through the round. Now, if they're playing on their time par, and the hole's open in front of them, that's no problem. But if they're over their time par and the hole in front of them is open, they are considered out of position. We take some action with them at that time. With playing 144 players, once they make the turn, you've got more groups on the golf course than you got holes. So a lot of times it kind of backs up. But if someone gets out of position, believe me, we're on their case.
Yeah, definitely. So where are you based, actually, when you're on the course? Are you in a golf cart driving about all over the place?
Yes, I am. We have our staff that is in certain zones, we call them, that, they'll cover their zone. They get comfortable with that. And I'm what you call a rover. I'll be kind of all over the place. Okay. Somebody needs some help with something, be there to assist. But listen, we have some great people on our staff that do a great job. They don't have to be motivated. They are motivated, and they take a lot of pride in conducting the competition and maintaining the integrity of the game, and you couldn't ask for a better staff.
Yeah, and you know the rule book inside out. Are you ever stumped? Is there ever a situation where you think,
well, people ask me on occasion, Diane, do you know all the rules? And my standard answer to that, no, but I can probably answer any question you're going to ask me.
Exactly. Mark Russell, thank you so much, and have a fantastic tournament. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Diane, thanks for having me.
Well, I guess this is the joy of doing the podcast myself this week, in that I can have whoever I want on. And it's been a little bit of a family affair. My brother, Russell Knox, was on the other day. He's a player. He's one of our secret golf players, so that's pretty legit. But right now, I have my mum on.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm hot. I just finished work for the day.
Okay, so let me very quickly, it's Mother's Day this weekend, and the final time that the event is going to be held over Mother's Day. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I have her on because she's a volunteer.
I am.
So how many years have you volunteered at the Players?
I think this is my 11th year.
Okay. And, it's funny because Russell hasn't played the Players for the past 11 years. So you were doing this long before he was even on tour.
Yeah, well, it was kind of strange when he was actually one of the players, though. It was nice to be able to say I'm the only mum with a player playing.
You are the only mum. I was going to ask that.
Who's volunteering at least, yeah.
So how did it come about that you became a volunteer?
It was somebody who your dad worked with suggested that I should do it, and I thought, I'll give it a go. And I didn't think I'd be doing it for 11 years, so and I probably will continue too.
So Russell, this will be what, his 4th or 5th players?
Probably, yeah, 4, maybe 5th. I'm not sure.
How is it when you see him? Like when you're on the range, you know, you've been doing it for so long, and you do know a lot of the players, I guess, through volunteering at this event and seeing them at other events, because you travel quite a lot to support Russell. But also a lot of them do know that you're Russell's mum.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because we're told not to engage the players in conversation, but of course I go straight up and give him a hug, and I do hug a few of the other players too.
Like who?
Like, Jonas Blix I spoke to today, and my favourite, Chesson Hadley.
Oh, everyone likes Chesson Hadley.
Everybody loves Chesson Hadley.
I actually read something the other day. He's a hot tip to win this week.
He's been doing really well since he got back on the tour after being on the web.com tour, so he's done well.
So let's go through your job role. So you were there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What were you actually doing?
I helped to man the gates to make sure that people who are only legitimately allowed to be on the practice range get in. I drive a golf cart over to the manufacturers' trailers.
Oh.
And from Tuesday onwards, we actually put placards behind the players, so we have to put them in order and give them to the little runners to put out for the players.
Good. Now, they changed quite a lot this year, and the thing about this tournament is it is the Players' Championship. So there's a panel of players that do get to say, you know, hey, we like this, we don't like this, we can maybe change this. And there was quite a few changes for the range this year.
Yeah, I think the players felt that there were too many people on the range who really were, maybe shouldn't have been there and who were distracting them. So this year, each player got 4 special credentials, 1 for the player, 1 for the caddy, and 2 for two other guests who could be on the range, and that was it, nobody else.
Okay, and the other difference is the media are not allowed on the range.
No, well, that's not strictly true. They can come onto the range, but they have to stay under an umbrella, just under the Rolex clock, a bit like the Masters where you have to go under the tree, but they can only go there. They can't approach the players on the practice range or follow them down or anything. They have to stay there. So.
And have there been any incidents over the past few days where you've had to say to people like, hey, it's a bit different this year, you're not allowed to come on?
In general, everything went really smoothly. There was a couple of people who tried to get in, but they were all very gracious when you said, you know, you can't come in if you don't have the yellow lanyard that was signified the security pass. So.
Okay. I mean, it's good, and
yeah, I think it worked well.
There have been a lot of comparisons, and a lot of people have said during the week that they are doing things at the Players that are a bit more reminiscent of the Masters.
Yeah, I think they're trying to make it to be the 5th major, obviously, I think, and they are clamping down and trying to change things a little bit to make it more secure. But we had no issues at all, and it was good. Everybody behaved.
Obviously, you are from Scotland, and the weather, you've lived here for 13 years, the weather in Florida can be a bit much sometimes. Are you looking forward to volunteering in March instead of May?
I am, actually. in a weird way, I am. I'm actually looking forward to being able to put a jacket on.
You might have to wear a sweater to work.
A jumper.
A jumper, what we call it in
Although
Scotland.
you never know, it could be 80 degrees in March. So
yeah, exactly. So this will be the last year that it's Mother's Day for the Sunday round. Last year, Russell unfortunately missed the cut. The good thing was the 4 of us got to go out for a Mother's Day lunch, which we haven't been able to do for a really, really long time. But this Mother's Day, we're hoping that we're going to be at the course.
Yes.
And we're going to have a late tea time, and we're going to be walking around supporting him.
That sounds perfect.
We had Russell on the podcast, and I asked him, you know, what you as a mum meant to him. And it's just because, you know, to get these guys to where they are in their career, there's a lot of sacrifice, and the sacrifice does come from the parents a lot of times.
That's quite true.
And a lot of our players have said that their mum didn't work so much because she wanted to dedicate more time to driving them around and getting them from A to B to all these tournaments to qualify, to do whatever. And you definitely had to do that when Russell was growing up.
I did, yeah, until you were able to drive, and then you could take him.
And it was very annoying, actually, that he'd be like, hey, can you take me to the golf?
But he said such nice things about me yesterday, all in one sentence. I thought it was amazing, and I cried my eyes out.
I did say when we recorded it, if she hears this, she is going to cry.
Yes,
definitely.
I did cry, but I cry at everything. So
I know, exactly.
Okay.
But it is special, and it's nice. It's always been really nice to have the pink day on the Sunday, and there's a lot that's done for breast cancer care and for Mother's Day as well. So are you going to miss that next year?
Yeah, In fact, I have to go out and buy something pink because I'm not really a pink person, so I need to go and make sure I have something pink to wear. But yeah, I think people enjoy that it's Mother's Day, and it's a lot of people come out and celebrate as a family on Mother's Day at the golf, and I think it'll be a little bit different, but I'm sure after they've done it once, it'll be quite normal again for the tournament.
Now, I mean, I'll be there with you, but I'm very prepared to be pushed to the side on Mother's Day as the second favourite child. What would be your dream situation for this Sunday?
Well, of course, for Russell to win, that would be amazing, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see how the chips fall.
You're definitely one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to Russell's golf game, and he did say to us this week that he has adjusted his putting stroke.
I heard him say that on the interview, yes. So
you don't know any
I don't.
I mean, I wanted to ask him more, but I was getting this look from him he still didn't really know.
I don't really get into the technical stuff. I'm just the mum, that's all.
Just the mum.
Just the mum.
It's the biggest understatement of the year. Thank you for being here.
Oh, that's all. I love it.
You know, it's good that we can all enjoy this together.
Here's to a good week at the Players.
Exactly. How nice that I get to end the podcast by talking to my mum. That's what it's all about. And I'm hoping to spend the whole weekend with her and my dad, following Russell around the course, and our secret golfers too. So thank you very much for listening. It's been a really fun week. This is one of my favourite tournaments to come to. Frank Bassett from Golf Talk America says the exact same thing. And all of our players, they've backed it up by saying that the course is in the best condition they've maybe ever seen it. Chris Stroud himself said it's absolutely the best tournament in the world. There's not really a higher compliment than that, is there? So it's going to be a fun week. We'll continue to post on all of our social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, also on Facebook. So you can keep up to date there. And well, we'll be back with another podcast next week talking about the winner of the Players' Championship. And well, fingers crossed it's going to be one of our guys. Good luck to them all.